Battlefield 2 is well known for spawning many iconic maps in the franchise, ranging from the vast and open sandbox playgrounds heavily focused around vehicle combat to close-quarter urban meat-grinders where infantry shines above all. Only a few maps have tried to combine these two extremes into a singular package, one of them becoming an instant cult classic that is still beloved to this day despite not making any recurring appearances ever since. This map is known as Road to Jalalabad. Road to Jalalabad can be split into two distinctly different regions. While the western side of the map is located on the outskirts of the city, with many rock formations, dunes and ruins displaced across a rather open area, the eastern side is much more close-quarter centric as it takes place within the city of Jalalabad itself. The map pits USMC against Mech as the American war machine has thundered over to the eastern border of Afghanistan in an effort to secure a crucial training and logistical outpost of the Mech forces, which also acts as the gateway into the Laghman and Kunar valleys of Afghanistan. The map is located near as well as within the city limits of Jalalabad, which itself stands in a relatively close proximity to border with Pakistan. Beginning on the northwest side of the map, we'll find the USMC staging area, which acts as the home base of the US team. This uncapturable control point is a home to commander assets in form of 3 artillery pieces, UAV trailer and a radar station. On top of that, a total of 4 DPVs, 2 Humvees and 2 Abrams tanks will be available for the players to take control of. The point itself also has some defense utilities such as 3 TOW missile launchers and 3 mounted M249 LMGs. Directly outside of the staging area, the players will be met with 2 options: the main highway leading southeast as well as the dirt road leading eastward. Following the latter will take them across a peninsula and towards the ruins on the northern side of the lake that dominates this part of the map. It is a home to a capture point set between the rock formations and ruins themselves, which is often a heavily contested area on the largest version of Conquest available. The team that will take control of this point will gain access to a stationary missile launcher, as well as a buggy in form of either DPV or FAV depending on the faction. The lake itself takes a sizable portion of the western side of the map, and while it doesn't feature any control points, it does host a small island located at the very center, where players will be able to utilize 2 shacks as cover. This area is where snipers and support gunners will often try to engage with the approaching attackers from a distance, and as thus it should not be underestimated. The south of the lake is where the main road leading out of UMC staging area will lead players to, and the first significant location there is Outpost. As the name suggests, it is a medium-sized control point reinforced with multiple watchtowers and sandbag fortifications. Each of the towers features an emplacement LMG, and on top of that a single artillery piece can be found here as well. The flag will also spawn a missile launcher, a Humvee and an M1A2 Abrams tank for the USMC team, or 2 Wadniks for the Mech army. Following the main road to the east of Outpost, we'll start seeing the outskirts of the city itself where a smaller village is located. Within this village lies the next control point on the map, the Fountain. While looking rather inconspicuous, it can be at times a home to fierce infantry combat, which often descends into a cat-and-mouse game due to the density of the buildings, which allow for many flanking options for either of the teams contesting this area. Players should watch out for potential ambushes from all sides, including the rooftops and surprise incursions from the enemy vehicles, which can easily storm into this area and dominate it. Under Mech control, this flag will spawn a Wadnik and a FAV, while under USMC control it will spawn a Humvee and a DPV. While the main road leads further east and into the city itself, another control point can be found just across the street northeast from the village, this area being known as the Junkyard. Hosting a number of structures, this flag is completely surrounded with a metal fencing, which makes it much more difficult to assault than the previous control points. It acts as the final stronghold before the entrance to the city of Jalalabad itself, and as thus the surrounding areas are often the center of the action on the map. On 64 and 32 player version of the map, it spawns a stationary LMG, FAV and a Wadnik while under control of Mech, and a DPV and Humvee under control of USMC. On 16 player version of the map, it starts under control of USMC and spawns a stationary LMG, a DPV and a single M1A2 Abrams tank. Should Mech Army take control of it, it will spawn a FAV and T-90 tank instead. It is also where the US commander assets in form of 2 artillery cannons, UAV trailer and a radar station can be found on this variant of the map. Both north and south sides of the junkyard are connected to the roads which lead directly into the city limits of Jalalabad. The eastern side of the map stands on an elevated position and offers a lot more close-quarter combat with very dense urban areas where infantry will gain more advantage over the armored vehicles than on the western side of the map. Following either the main road from the south or the dirt road from the center of the map will lead players to the first major flag within the city, and the most notable landmark on the entire map, the hotel. The entrance to the hotel is where the capture zone is located, and within the same area players will be able to find 2 stationary LMGs, 2 missile launchers and a single Vodnik under the reign of Mech Army. If USMC takes control of this flag, it will find a Humvee in the place of Vodnik instead. It is also where another artillery piece can be found. While the hotel building itself cannot be entered, a ladder can be found on the southern side of it, allowing players to access the rooftop, which will serve as a significant vantage point for the snipers and commanders, granting them a vast overview of most of the district. On the northwestern side of the city, the penultimate control point located in a small market can be found. This area spawns only 2 stationary LMGs and is usually home to intense infantry combat, as many surrounding buildings can be accessed and used to contest this control point. While the dirt road that runs next to it connects to the main road going through the city and up north, a staircase located on the northern wall provides an additional route for the infantry to reach the final and most fortified area on the entire map. On the far north of the city limits, behind multiple residential buildings and up the elevated terrain reinforced with many structures, lies the final control point on the map, the mosque. This point acts as the base of the Mech Army, but unlike USMC staging area, it can be captured by both teams. It is where Mech commanders can find their artillery piece, UAV trailer and a radar station on top of 3 stationary LMGs, 2 FAVs and 2 T-90 tanks. If the flag falls under control of USMC, it will spawn only 2 DPVs instead. Due to being well isolated from the rest of the level, it is rather rare to see this point contested, and in many cases players are likely to never see the action reach this part of the map. The map is available in Conquest mode in 3 different variants. The 64-player version utilizes the entire map as part of the Conquest Assault setup. The USMC acts as the attacking team with 330 tickets at the beginning of the round, while Mech Army holds 300 tickets. As stated before, the USMC staging area is an uncapped flag of the US team, while Mech begins the game holding control over Outpost, Fountain, Junkyard, Hotel, Market and Mosque. Unlike the rest of the flags on the map, the lake control point starts off in a neutral state. That is of course until one of the teams can manage to take control of it. The 32-player variant of the map remains largely the same, with the biggest difference being the removal of the lake control point, while the rest of the layout remains the same. In this version, USMC will start the game with 220 tickets and Mech Army will start with 200. In the 16-player variant, the game mode turns into Conquest Double Assault, meaning that neither USMC nor Mech can own an uncapped flag. While both teams begin with 100 tickets, the play area is reduced to city limits, with USMC holding control over Junkyard at the beginning of the round, the Hotel and the Market flags now starting in a neutral state, and Mosque control point remaining the same as in other versions of the map. Needless to say, while the in-game city of Jalalabad is completely fictional, the location is based on the real city of the same name. The modern Jalalabad has been established in 1570 and is currently the 5th largest city in Afghanistan. It is known for being a leading center of social and trade activities due to its close proximity to the border with Pakistan. While the city has an extensive history dating back to the ancient and medieval times when it was known under its original name of Adinapur, the modern history of conflicts set within the city includes 2 British incursions in 1818 and 1878, and most prominently the civil war between the Afghan government and the Taliban forces that began in the 1980s and is still ongoing to this day. Between the late 1970s and early 1990s, the city served as a strategic location for the Democratic Republic of Afghanistan, which is when the Battle of Jalalabad had occurred in March of 1989, when 2 Mujahideen rebel factions backed by Pakistan and the United States have assaulted the city. The 2-month battle resulted in a severe destruction of a large portion of the city, but ultimately led to the victory on the side of Afghan government. This victory was however short-lived, as on April 19, 1992, Jalalabad fell to the rebels, and 4 years later the Taliban took control of the city for the following 5 years until the Afghan forces once again recaptured the city with the help of the United States, as the infamous war in Afghanistan has kicked off. This was only the beginning of further struggle in the region, as the city was a target to multiple jihad attacks from various Islamic terror organizations. Following the withdrawal of the United States from the Afghanistan in 2021, Jalalabad has been taken over by Taliban once again on August 15, and as such the turbulent history of the city still carries on to this day. While the real-life history of Jalalabad is filled with never-ending struggle and violence, the fictional version of it we have been privileged to see in Battlefield 2 became a cult classic that to this day remains to be one of the best examples of level design that combines both large-scale vehicle warfare and frantic close-quarter infantry combat. A true definition of a Battlefield map. While it might never return in any other game in the franchise, the legacy of Road to Jalalabad will certainly live on.